Welcome to the DRF College Sports Podcast, brought to you by DRF Sports. America's most trusted name in horse racing is now providing sports bettors with exclusive data, analytics, previews, videos, and expert picks, including ours, on all major sports. I'm your host, Jack Fitzpatrick, with co-host Bennett Conlin. We're going to bring you all the data and insights on college basketball and some college football this season, trying to help you cover the spread and win some money. Another way to win money, DRF Cash Grab, which is DRF Sports' all-new free-to-play sports prediction game where you can win real money. It's available to every sports fan in the App Store and Google Play Store, where you can win real cash prizes every single day. And you have a chance to win big money jackpots. All you have to do is download the free DRF Cash Grab app, create an account, and start predicting. Download the DRF Cash Grab app now and win big. With all that out of the way, let's get into it. Are you ready for the first episode of the DRF College Sports Podcast? Bennett Conlin, aka the man, the myth, the severely average bettor.
I'm extremely excited. I think this will be fun to dive into some college hoops action for sure.
Yeah, hopefully we can win money. I write a column on drf.com/sports every week, and had a terrible Tuesday. I was 2-4. I will say both my mid-major picks hit, but we text a lot about our picks. And I think we're both a little bit more versed in mid-major, finding the value at kind of the CAA, A10, Mountain West level, because there's a lot of value to be found there. Not saying we're bad at picking, ranked matchups. We're not saying turn the podcast off now.
That's a good start.
Yesterday was a little bad.
You were close, though. You had North Carolina where they had the ball late. I think you had them, 12.5, minus 12.5. They won by 11. Charleston could have fouled, or they could have went in for life if they wanted to. So not necessarily a bad beat, but a close one there. I'm excited to dive into the college hoop slate. And like you said, we both have mid-major connections. We went to James Madison University. So we do that. And are we doing full intros today?
Yeah, we have to do full intros today. I was going to say, you take it away first. Give the people what you do, how you got into betting, I guess, and what kind of your level of betting and expertise is in both college basketball and college football, because I think you bring a level of expertise that I do not bring.
Yeah, so I currently work for the parent company is called Better Collective. The main site that I write for is Sports Handle. You can find them on Twitter at sports_handle. I do a lot of coverage related to like legislation in the sports betting space. So what's going on with different states and all that good stuff. So that's kind of the focus. But prior to this job, I worked at the Daily Progress. It's a local newspaper in Charlottesville, Virginia. So I was on the UVA beat following Tony Bennett, the men's basketball program, Bronco Mendenhall in that football program. So I have some beat writing experience, some different things with college sports. Last year I got to vote for the Heisman, which was fun. Been an AP poll voter, which I don't know if it's something I should brag about.
You should definitely brag about that, because there's only so many people that have been AP top 25 voters in their life, and you're one of them.
Those polls can be a little misleading. But yes, I've had the ability to vote in those. So I'm excited for the current role that I'm in, and Jack was nice enough to bring me on here to have this college sports podcast with you. And Jack, I guess, why don't you tell everybody how you got into this role?
Well, yeah, I want to say first, you're someone I text with on a daily basis about our bets, how we're going to bet. You make fun of my bets, and normally making fun of those bets normally plays out. But yeah, at DRF Sports, I'm the social media manager. I talk, I tweet, I do everything when it comes to sports betting using our exclusive data and analytics and previews to kind of show what team will have the edge and things like that. Like last night, FAU, our simulations, not to kind of pat ourselves on the back, but our simulations, they predicted FAU would win. However, FAU, I think, only lost by 2 to Miami. So if you're on FAU, I think they were +7. If you were on that, you won some money last night. So just showing off what our simulations, what our data can do. And before that, I was at CBS Sports watching plenty of mid-major basketball with CBS Sports Network. So that's where my mid-major expertise kind of comes in. I think I've watched more hours than any human should watch at 1 a.m. of a Mountain West game between Wyoming and Boise State. So that's all the fun stuff. with all that housekeeping stuff out of the way, I think we need to jump into what we prefaced what this podcast is, the College Sports Podcast. Doing college basketball. We'll talk some college football at the end as the college football playoffs are starting up. But the Hall of Fame tip-off starts Saturday. This is released on Thursday, so the lines aren't all the way out. And we'll kind of run into this as this season goes on. Some lines won't fully be out, so we'll kind of rely on the data from DRF Sports. We'll rely on some KenPom kind of predictions of where their lines will go. But this tournament, this Hall of Fame tip-off tournament, starts Saturday at 1 p.m. between number 5 Villanova and number 17 Tennessee. We think it's worth mentioning, even though we don't have concrete lines out for this. This is definitely huge matchups that are worth talking about.
Yeah, I think like you had kind of mentioned the weekly format. We'll get into some of the big matchups and probably some mid-major stuff too. But yeah, Tennessee Villanova is one that obviously, right? I think that is the Hall of Fame tip-off tournament. That's, to me, that's the marquee matchup of this one, at least in the first games. Then you got North Carolina, Purdue. I think Tennessee Villanova's got a chance to be a little bit more competitive than UNC Purdue. But how do you feel about that Tennessee Villanova matchup, which I think is a 1 p.m. game on Saturday?
Yeah, it's 1 p.m. on Saturday. I think you mentioned KenPom has this line at Villanova -1 right now. So
yeah,
kind of expecting things to go as we get closer to tip-off. That'll probably become like a pick'em game almost. These are two very evenly matched teams. According to ESPN's BPI, Villanova has a 65% chance to win. But you talk about it. These are two evenly matched teams. We're going to talk probably a lot of KenPom, like advanced stats during this podcast throughout the year. Bennett loves KenPom, and he's that love for KenPom has now rubbed off on me. Villanova's 10th. Tennessee is 11th in KenPom standings.
They're both really good. So Tennessee's beaten up on two like mediocre or probably worse than mediocre teams this year to get to 2-0.
Put some respect on Tennessee Martin.
Tennessee Martin, the lofty ranking of 347 on KenPom. Really good team there. So, I mean, they haven't really played anyone. At the same time, Villanova, I think they're 2-1 in their best matchup. They played UCLA at UCLA, end up losing that game in overtime by 9. Really competitive matchup there. They shoot the crap out of the ball. Like, they're unbelievably good from 3. I think they're the better offensive team, I would say. They got Gillespie, who feels like he's been there a very long time. He's a really good player. They've got multiple guys who can shoot it. Jay Wright obviously has them coached well. But Tennessee defensively is really good. So I think it's going to be a close matchup. I think KenPom is kind of spot on there. I'm personally leaning Tennessee here. I think the general public probably leans Villanova, would be my guess. I think they're better in the polls. Is that right? They're 5 in the polls.
Yeah, Villanova's 5th right now. And a lot of people kind of expect Villanova to be in that top 5 kind of area by the end of the season.
I just love what Tennessee does defensively. And for me, that's kind of why I would lean that way. When you've got a team like Villanova, if Tennessee can defend the 3 well, I think they'll have a chance in that game. I also kind of feel like it's a game where a lot of people are going to be on Villanova because they saw them in a national spotlight. They played really well on the road at UCLA. And I kind of feel good about taking a Tennessee team that I think is as good, if not better than Villanova.
Yeah, and with all that being said, the public will probably be riding Villanova heavily. So you might be able to get Tennessee at solid value with plus money. I, too, am riding Tennessee. I think their defense is going to kind of stifle Villanova. And the effective possession ratio, this is one of my favorite stats. I have to explain what an EPR is. It's the number of possessions plus offensive rebounds minus turnovers divided by possessions. So it's kind of a really weird metric, but it's fun. It's fun to look at. So it's just practically saying how efficient is your offense. And Tennessee's number 1 in the nation at 1.113. Where Villanova's 51st at 0.995. All that's being said is Tennessee's a really good defensive team that has an efficient offense. Villanova's a good offense that doesn't have a great defense. They're 266th in a defensive efficiency, allowing 1 point per possession about. So I think Tennessee is the side to play here. Probably I would take Tennessee all the way down to like -3, but I don't think it's going to get there. I think it'll stay relatively close at a 1-point spread to a pick 'em almost.
Yeah, I think if you can get either team as an underdog in this one, I would kind of lean that way. I think Tennessee will probably end up being the underdog, which makes me like that one. I think it's going to be an awesome matchup. Yeah, I think that's a really good one. And then you've got North Carolina, Purdue in the other game. So it's their Saturday games, and then the winners play and the losers play as well on Sunday. So you've got North Carolina, Purdue. Purdue looks awesome. North Carolina, not so much.
Yeah, I think we talked the first game, there were 10-11 in KenPom. You look at this one, I think Purdue is 4th in KenPom and UNC is 50th. You don't often see kind of a difference in rankings between, the top 25 than what KenPom has them. You'll occasionally see a difference, but seeing a UNC team that is number 18 and 50th in KenPom, that screams to me, stay away. That screams to me, this team is highly overrated coming out of the preseason, and the games they've played just haven't caught up to them.
Yeah, I mean, haven't played a good schedule, right? So they played Loyola, Maryland, Brown, and Charleston. And the College of Charleston game was kind of a dogfight.
Yeah.
Some of that is the College of Charleston ran up tempo and they were able to hit some shots, and they were playing at home.
And Pat Kelsey's a darn good basketball. Complete side. How did College of Charleston, a middle of the road to bottom feeder CAA team, they've had a couple years. I think they made the tournament in like 2016 or something, 2018, something like that. But for the most part, they're kind of a middle of the road CAA team. How did they swing Pat Kelsey? What a hire.
He's a really good coach. Yeah. So I think they've got a chance to be decent this year or at least better than they've been in the past, but they're not like an elite team. And for North Carolina to struggle with Brown and the College of Charleston, both those were right around, there were close games toward the end. And then you go on a neutral court and you're playing a Purdue team that feels like it just rolls out 7-footers, like multiple 7-footers. They're really good down low. That's kind of where Carolina's strength is. They've got some shooters on that team, but they're really good in terms of what they have in the post. Armando Bacot sort of stands out there in terms of a guy that they love to feed the ball to. They've got Dawson Garcia, another big guy too. So I think for Purdue to be able to match that and have more size even, I think I'm leaning Purdue even with the spread. I also think you've got a chance that maybe more casual bettors are like, I can get North Carolina, that brand name, at like +9. Give me that. But I think Purdue is a good one. And maybe I'm considering adding this, maybe a little parlay with Purdue in the under in this game.
Okay.
Because North Carolina's put up an astounding amount of points. They run at a pretty good tempo, but they've also played some teams, specifically the College of Charleston game. Right now, the College of Charleston, according to KenPom, has the fastest tempo in college basketball. Pat Kelsey has them running up and down the floor. So I think Purdue slows it down a little bit. I think when you've got two sides that both have really good big men, there's a chance that this one could go a little slower. At the same time, Purdue has not played a defense as good as North Carolina's all year. They've kind of beaten up on some subpar defenses and scored like 90-plus points. I don't think that's really sustainable.
Yeah, they are one of the slowest teams in the nation, Purdue is. Worth mentioning, UNC is 0-3 this season against the spread, and Purdue's 2-1 against the spread. Also worth mentioning, both teams who've played cupcake soft schedules are in the negatives in turnover differentials. So this could get kind of ugly in terms of throwing the ball all around the court. Granted, UNC's played a little bit more high tempo, so it kind of worries you a little bit more that Purdue's playing this slow tempo and they still have a negative turnover margin. Just something to kind of keep an eye on. And you mentioned 7-footers for Purdue. I got to call out Zach Edey. The 7'4" Canadian is absolutely dominating competition this season. 16 points, 22, 18 so far this season, to pair with 9 rebounds, 10 rebounds, and 12 rebounds in the 3 games. So he's going to be fun to watch. Keep it locked on Zach Edey when he comes into the game. So what was kind of your pick on this one?
I think I like Purdue. I'm guessing the spread might be close to 9 or 10 points based on what KenPom's got it. I think it would be -9 Purdue. I would kind of lean that way and maybe consider the under. And getting back to your point, to have Travion Williams, who's 6'10", 255, get dwarfed by his teammate. They're so good down low. I just have I'm not sure North Carolina, which is pretty good in the post, can handle it. And I like the guards that Purdue has. Like, I think it could get out of hand.
Yeah, UNC is a bad defense and everything like that. I think Purdue wins this pretty handedly in kind of a shocking game for UNC fans. They're sitting there, they think they're the 18th best team in the country, and Purdue, I think, is going to win in a neutral court situation in kind of dominating fashion. So I think -9, I'm leaning Purdue there. I probably lean Purdue up to like minus. How crazy should I get? How crazy should I get on the first podcast?
Now, are you taking an alt spread here?
Well, no, I'm saying if it gets bet up or down, like if it opens, like it's probably going to open at -9, somewhere around there. I would go Purdue all the way up to like -15. I'm not going alternate spreads yet, but like, yeah, like I'm probably hammering Purdue up to -15.
I'm hoping to get in potentially early here. I don't know if I'd go that high, but I feel you. I think there is a chance that they blow them out. I'm also definitely interested potentially in the under. I feel like both of those, the over, people kind of looking at that. I think that could be a public play. So I'm trying to get away from the over.
I was going to say, do you think that the over will be inflated because of the stats coming into this game?
I think with the general public, maybe I think the number might look kind of low. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like somewhere in like the 150 to 160 range. And if it's somewhere in there, I think people, if they see it in the 150s, might be like, whoa, and try to grab it. So we'll see what happens there. But I think right now it looks like Purdue's the right side.
Yeah, I agree with that. Moving on to Thursday games. So we get out of the Hall of Fame tip-off tournament. That tips off 1 p.m. Saturday. Moving to games tonight. Thursday games. You got St. Bonaventure. This is a great mid-major matchup. Boise State isn't going to be fantastic this season, but it's still a great matchup with a ranked St. Bonaventure team. This is Thursday at 2 p.m. Number 22, St. Bonaventure, 2-0, 1-1 against the spread. Boise State, 1-1, 1-1 against the spread. Just initial thoughts here. What are your vibes on this game?
Yeah, so Boise State's a good program, right? They've been pretty solid recently. You watched a lot of Mountain West last year, so because of that, I was hearing a lot from you about Boise State. Watched them a little bit. They broke my heart a few times, but a fun team to watch with some scorers. And I was looking through it today, and they're the third worst three-point shooting team today, as in Wednesday when we're recording it. So as of Wednesday morning, they're the third worst three-point shooting team in the country. I don't really think that's going to keep happening, but it's a matter of kind of when the three-point shots are going to start to fall. If you're making, well, I think they're like 16%. If you're making 16% of your threes, you're going to look pretty bad early. To do that and be 1-1 against the spread, like kudos to them. So I think it's an interesting one. And you said it was -7, St. Bonaventure?
Yes.
I don't know. I would consider Boise. This is probably one I'm gonna tell myself I'll avoid, and then it'll be a Thursday 1 p.m. and I'm gonna be like get that itch, with the game tipping off in an hour and being televised at 2:00 on a Thursday. But how do you feel about this? Because I really don't know how to feel.
So Boise State last season it was one of the most hot and cold teams I think I've ever seen play a game of basketball. Derek Alston Jr. was really good. Ray J. Dennis was also really good, both for the Broncos. They return 6 contributors, but they lose those 2 other guys who, especially Derek Alston, who's now in the NBA. But this team would just go on these stretches where you think it's going to be just a world beater. I think early on in the season last year, I tweeted out, I think Boise State is going to be a Cinderella team in March. They were on the bubble. I don't even remember if they made the March Madness. If they did, they were a quick exit. So I don't think they're going to be able to necessarily get up for this game. And St. Bonaventure was just kind of a juggernaut all of last season. I like St. Bonaventure here at -7. And our power line over at drfsports.com, this line opened at 4.5. And at 4.5, the edge was all over St. Bonaventure. But it seems like the line has now adjusted because our power line likes St. Bonnie at -6, and they like them to win a 7-point game. So I think the line's right where it is. But I like St. Bonaventure. If you know the picture, the guy with the really long shorts, I think that kind of magic will play a role into this. But no, they're 35th in KenPom. They've just really solid offense and defense. Boise State's not as good. And if you can't shoot the three, I don't know if you can necessarily keep up with St. Bonaventure, who will be a really solid time.
That's, to me, I'm scared because I feel like Boise, there's like a regression to the mean at some point where they're going to hit a bunch of threes and it's going to come back and be normal. Although they're not the best, I don't know that they're going to be a great 3-point shooting team. But you had mentioned, I think you would put this in there, that they've been pretty good, against the spread in non-conference the last few years. They've got some decent players who are still there. So
that is the thing. They are 6-2 in non-conference the last 2 seasons. They return 6 starters. Both of those things make you want to kind of lean Boise State. I think here's how I see this game, and this might be like a really political roundabout way of answering this question. I like St. Bonaventure -7, but if you're betting Boise State, I think Boise State money line is the play. Like, I think Boise State either is going to win this game or get blown out of the gym.
I think I've convinced myself now. I think I might take Boise in this game. We'll see what happens on Thursday, but I'll go on the podcast here. I'll go on record and say I'm going to take Boise plus the 7 or whatever it is.
And follow at Bennett Conlin to see if he changes his mind at the last second.
You can yell at me if I'm wrong or whatever too. But I think that, like, I forgot about that earlier, but you had mentioned it. Like, they've got 6 of their 7 top contributors are seniors. Like, I just feel like they're due for a shooting game. I think people might count them out. They're going to see that ranking next to St. Bonaventure. So I might take them +7 and just see what happens.
I'm also now talking myself back into Boise State. I'm sticking with St. Bonaventure -7, but it is worth noting Boise State has a bad offense, but they have a pretty solid defense. So if there is any sort of regression to the mean, I think they can compete really well. But I really like St. Bonaventure. I really like the Bonnies.
I think it's got a chance to be low scoring too. So that makes me love the +7.
All right, the under king over here. The under king.
We'll see what happens in that one, but I'll probably end up being on the Boise State side.
That's what I like to hear. No, that's not what I guess that's what I like to hear. We can go at it. We'll have a head to head. We'll see who wins it. We'll
track our picks.
Yeah, we'll track our picks. Next up, we got some fun stuff going down. We got some after dark scaries. This game tips off tonight at 11 p.m. Nothing like a nightcap between Wyoming and Washington. 2 aggressively bad teams going at it with a chance to make you money. Wyoming is +3. They're 2-0 this season, 2-0 against the spread. And then Washington is 2-1, and they are 0-3 against the spread. Our Sims, just to continue kind of breaking down this game before I get Bennett's input on it, our Sims love Wyoming, love Wyoming. They think this line should be -4 in favor of the Cowboys, and they think the Cowboys can win by 10 according to our game simulator.
Yeah, I mean, Washington, they've played 3 teams this year that have all been 225th or worse in KenPom, and they're 2-1 in the year. Like, they have a 7-point home loss to Northern Illinois, which is 3-14 in KenPom. Indiana beat Northern Illinois by 36. Like, I think Washington, I don't know what's going on with them. They don't look good at all. Wyoming,
football team.
Exactly. Wyoming hasn't played anyone, but they've looked good in both those games. I think they have a 40-point win, a 38-point win or something. So they're shooting well. They're playing good defense. I think they've got a decent squad. And yeah, I'm kind of leaning that way. I think it makes a lot more sense than taking Washington in this spot.
Just so it's out there, Wyoming is shooting 56% from the field.
The opponents help.
No, it does, but that's an insane number, and 40% from deep. If you put me in the paint and said, shoot 10 shots, I don't think I can shoot 56%.
Are you guarded?
No, that's how bad I am at basketball. No, but Wyoming's 149 in KenPom. Washington's 134, and they have a terrible, terrible offense. Washington's offense this season, they're shooting 34% from the field, 26% from 3, and they're getting out-rebounded by 4. That's against teams that aren't good. Jeff Linder, last 2 seasons, he's the head coach of Wyoming, 11-1 against the spread in road games after a 10-point win, after a 10-plus point win. And this is my favorite part. This is why I always will hammer the other team. If you go on drf.com/sports, you go under favoring Washington, it says no betting angles are available for Washington. There's nothing in this game that, like, we have stats that go back to 1992, 1997, and there's nothing here that will help you.
I think the thing for me is that Wyoming and Washington have both played teams that aren't good. And like Washington has still stumbled, right? You mentioned those stats. You mentioned the fact that they have a loss, like where Wyoming's winning games by 40 points, I guess 39 points per game. I'd much rather have the team that's taking care of business against a bad team than a group that looks like it can't get out of its way. What's it going to look like when it actually plays a competent Wyoming team?
What does Ken Palm have this line at?
Ken Palm has Washington by 4.
Wow. All right. So about on track with what Vegas has it. But I think we both know what each other's picks are going to be here. But I just need to hear it. What's your pick for this game?
I'll take Washington money line. Wyoming. after we trash them. We trash them, and then I decide to take it. No, I'm on Wyoming. I'll take money line. I'll probably take +4 if that's still what it's at when I look.
I'll take Wyoming money line at +135. Easily, no hesitation. I think out of all the games we're talking about in this early window, we're about to jump into kind of more rapid fire, mid-major, what we like, what we don't like, and then our high-low parlay. But when we're talking about these first games, Wyoming is the one that I like the most.
Yeah, I think so too.
I also love betting dogs. I think it's so much fun to find value there. Like, I love betting underdogs. What did I bet yesterday? And it destroyed me. I have a parlay right now as we're recording. We're recording Wednesday night. I have a 3-dog parlay going on. I'm not going to check on the podcast. I'll check afterward. So moving in from those games to those quote unquote big ticket games, now let's head into some mid-major matchups that have you excited.
Yeah, there are a few, and I kind of stuck with like a Virginia theme a little bit here. I think we're going to talk a lot of Virginia college basketball in general as the season goes on.
That's where both of our expertises lie.
Yeah, so we'll have a lot of that. But Richmond plays Drake, and this one caught my eye. They're both Ken Palm top 75 teams. Richmond has a tough loss, but they also look really, really good against Georgia State, which I think is a good team, one of the better teams, if not the best team in the Sun Belt. Drake is a very good basketball team. I think they're expected to win that one. I forget the exact line here on Ken Palm. I'll pull it up real quick. It's they've got them by 5. It's a Saturday game. It's at Drake, looking like a 5-point favorite-ish over Richmond. Just interested in that matchup. I've been really impressed with Richmond, even though they do have a loss where Utah State pulled away late. So I might consider Richmond as a dog there. I think that could be an interesting one. Have not necessarily decided on that. I think I might just like pay attention and stay away. Maybe bet a little more football this weekend until we get some more data points with college hoops. But I think there could be some value in a good Richmond team that did suffer a loss, but I think they're a really good team, and they'll give Drake a handful.
I love – isn't that the fun part of betting at this point in the season, is that you just really don't know? Yeah, so I'm trying to find a tweet. This was making for a great podcast. I'm trying to find a tweet here that I said about Drake's head coach. He's really, really good against the spread. And I just can't find that data point. That game's on Saturday, so it's a little far out. I really like Richmond. I'll probably go whatever you don't go. If you do end up betting this game, Richmond also had a really good loss, and I hate when people say that, but they had a really good loss against Utah State. It looked bad with the final score, but they were in it for the majority of that game. And Utah State is a darn good basketball program this year.
Yeah, I like Utah State. I think they've got a squad. So I think Richmond, you got a loss. Maybe they're playing with a little extra chip on their shoulder. Who knows? But they've got a really tough stretch here. They play a pretty solid non-conference slate. So I'll be keeping a close eye on Richmond as the year goes on.
Yeah, and I think Richmond +5 is a really good play there, personally.
Yeah, me too. The other one that stands out, that's another mid-major one here, you got Chattanooga at VCU. So Thursday morning, you'll have another data point with VCU. They're playing Vanderbilt. They've looked horrible.
They look terrible. I almost included VCU as one of our games, like a VCU Vanderbilt rundown. And I almost included it in the high-low parlay we're going to hit next. But then I realized VCU's not good.
Yeah, so they opened the year with St. Peter's, and they won by 3 in a dogfight. And then they lost at home by 14 to Wagner, and they scored 44 points. They lost 58-44. Offensively, they've looked terrible. The shooting's bad. They're not getting any offensive rebounds. Like, they've just really struggled. They don't have Bones Highland anymore, which I think is a huge deal.
Yeah, it's a huge. He was one of the best players in the A10 and probably one of the better mid-major players.
And on the flip side, Chattanooga, they started the year opening night. They were 156 in Ken Palm. They played 3 games. They've already moved down to 129. They're flying down. They look really good. They've played good basketball. I think they're led by some really good players. They have Darius Banks, a JMU transfer who I and you know well. We've watched him play a lot. But Lamont Paris is the head coach there, and his first year, 2018, they really struggled. They got better in his second year, better in his third year, better in his fourth year. They just seem to improve every season. And this year, they seem like they're off to a similar start. So I'm really high on Chattanooga. I think they're an underrated team right now. And Ken Palm also has a VCU favored by 4. If you get Chattanooga as a dog against a VCU team that looks horrible for that Saturday game, that's going to be interesting. We'll see what happens VCU Vanderbilt Wednesday night. That obviously has a chance to change what happens a lot in terms of the data point and what the line is there. But I'm leaning Chattanooga pretty heavily.
Yeah, it's also worth mentioning Mike Rhodes going into this game against Vanderbilt. Mike Rhodes is the head coach of VCU. He's 1-9 against the spread in road games coming off of a loss.
Not ideal.
Oh, but it's at VCU, so that does not for some reason in my mind I had that at VCU at Chattanooga. My apologies.
Hey, that's all right.
Yeah, I don't think VCU is going to be. I think the loss of Bones Highland is huge. And well, VCU's offense last season, I watched a lot. They got really stagnant, and it would get downright ugly to watch when Bones wasn't in. You would have thought that over an off season, they could have kind of figured out how to run an offense when Bones Highland isn't the focal point. But clearly they haven't, and they haven't broken 60 points this season. I think Chattanooga is going to be – and if you could get – if they're a dog in that game, that's multiple units going down on Chattanooga.
Yeah, I think that's a really good one. And probably the game of the weekend that we haven't gotten to yet, in my opinion, it's a Sunday game. It's Denver versus Houston Baptist. I don't think you could find 2 worse teams in the country.
Why did you include this game?
To go at it, because this is awesome. I've been betting Denver the last couple of games, and they've broken my heart. They've lost both of them. They're a terrible team. This is a Denver team that lost to Ottawa, AZ, I guess is Ottawa, Arizona. I don't know who that is or when that was played. It was a 1-point heartbreaker for the boys. I think this is a particularly terrible game that I'm going to bet on out of amusement. So it's a Sunday game. You got Denver and Houston Baptist. Right now it's looking like Houston Baptist will be a 5-point dog. They lost 73-39 to Texas A&M today.
Oh, yeah, you bet that game, the over, and they didn't even break 40.
I bet the over. I thought Texas A&M was going to get 100. Instead, the 2 teams barely combined for 100, so I'm not thrilled about that one. But I'll probably end up placing something on this game. My guess is that I'm going to stick with my guys from Denver, that they'll bounce back and find a way to beat Houston Baptist.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, Denver's shooting 43% from the floor and 36% from 3, which is pretty good. They are getting out rebounded by 6, so it'll be interesting to see kind of how, the vaunted Houston Baptist rebounding abilities. It's going to be really interesting to see how Denver plays with that. But that's a game I won't even watch or bet. So you have fun. I don't
know if you can watch it. Do they televise those?
I don't even know what conference Denver's in. That's probably ESPN Plus. If we're not like
that, ESPN Plus. It's the Summit League, I guess, or that's Denver's.
I think they have an ESPN Plus deal.
Wow, good for them.
Something the CAA can't get. # Flow Sports. Let's go.
Let's go.
All right. Moving from your mid-major picks that got you hype, let's move to something that this was your idea. All Bennett. This all goes to him.
This was my idea.
The high-low parlay. That wasn't his name choice, but we're going to call it the high-low parlay. We're going with a 2-team parlay,
Yes.
a mid-major pick, and then a ranked pick.
Yep, mid-major or high major or ranked, I guess is how we'll say the high. You have to have the mid-major side is winning one of those, like you've got their spread, and then the same with the other side. So pretty straightforward. I kind of gone back and forth on this one, but I like the way Iona is playing right now. I really do. Rick Pitino has them playing at a high level. They play Liberty. I think that's a Friday game. So I'm excited for that one. I think Iona is going to be an underdog in that. I'm considering taking them as the dog there outright, but I'm definitely going to take spread. So I'll have the spread there. Right now, it looks like they'll probably be a 4-point underdog. They've got a win over Hofstra that I was really impressed with. Beating Harvard and Appalachian State. They're all KenPom top 200 teams. Liberty's right around the top 100, but they haven't really played LSU, lost by double digits in that one. So I like this one. It's on a neutral floor. I like the way Iona is playing. It's sort of a contradicting tempos where Liberty, Richie McKay comes from the Tony Bennett coaching tree a little bit. So they go pretty slow. Rick Pitino, they like to push it, shoot some threes. So I like Iona there as my mid-major play. I'll have them on the spread is probably what I'll end up taking rather than money line. And then Georgia and Georgia Tech play. I want to say that's a Saturday game, but I will double check here. But Georgia, they are not the best team in the world. But you know who else is not great? Georgia Tech.
Yeah, I was going to guess Georgia Tech. That was my guess.
Sorry, these are both Friday games. So it's Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech looks like they're going to be a 5-point favorite. I mean, they just haven't looked good at all. So they played 3 home games. They lose the opener to the Miami of Ohio. They beat Stetson, and then they play Lamar in a 9-point win. All those games are at home. They're going to Georgia. It's a rivalry game. Georgia's already been tested a little bit. They played a close one on the road. They only lost by 5 to Cincinnati, which I think Cincinnati's got a chance this year to be a better team than Georgia Tech. I think Georgia Tech's overrated based on what they did last year. They don't have Moses Wright anymore. They don't have Jose Alvarado. Like, they lost some really good players. Still have some good ones, but they've lost some talented guys. You're telling me I can get Georgia as a 5-point home underdog? I like that, Jack.
I'm digging it. I don't agree, but I'm digging it. No, I don't know enough about Georgia and Georgia Tech at this point in this season to agree or disagree. You brought up some great points. Georgia Tech did lose a lot. Georgia Tech had a really good season last year. I really like Iona, though. Rick Pitino, maybe the greatest coach in college basketball ever.
Ever, yeah. It's a shame that he's not.
Does a lot for his players, especially at Louisville. He really gives them full college experience. No, let me stop.
It's a shame he's not doing some sort of farewell tour, but that's just for Coach K.
That's just a Coach K thing. All right, moving into my picks. This one might surprise you. Ready for it?
Yeah, I don't think this is going to surprise me one bit.
James Madison.
Wow. The purple glasses are already on. First episode.
Can you hit me with what that line might be?
Yeah, I think it's going to be JMU like -2.
Okay.
For the spread. So
I would take them if they're favored. I expect, when I wrote this down earlier today, I expected them to be the underdog.
Well, here's something interesting. It's got a pretty good chance to flip right now. George Mason's come back. They're up 1 at Maryland at Maryland. It's halftime.
They're up 1 at half at Maryland. There we go.
Yes.
So if Mason wins that, the prediction line can flip very easily. I do think JMU will be the underdog in this game, kind of regardless of what happens at Maryland, just the way the market will play it out.
You think it'll flip a little bit?
I think it'll flip a little bit. I think JMU money line is the play. If they're favored, if they're -2, hammer them at -2. Probably not
hammer
at
them.
4. Probably not at -4 though, because they've played some close games.
But hammer at -2. You think they're going to win by 3?
Well, their average margin of victory is 4.
A part of me would say to lean Mason.
Well, you're not a true JMU alum.
Here's what I will say about JMU, to go to your point quickly, that I think is a big deal and is really in the weeds, and something that I think we'll bring up because we have this information that most people probably don't pay much attention to. there is a home football game, and JMU is more of a football school
This is
on
so
Saturday.
Holy, oh my God.
On Saturday.
Only us would know this.
And then they play Friday night in their new arena against a team that alumni and people care about, George Mason. They care about that win. They haven't won that game in 4 years. Like, I think it'll probably be, some people are kind of alluding to maybe a sellout. The beat writer was, I don't know if they're going to get, I think it can fit 8,000. I don't know if they'll have 8,000, but I think they can have 5,000
against ODU.
I think they could have like 5,000 or so and have a really rowdy atmosphere, which I do think could play a little bit of a factor. You've also got George Mason coming off of probably a pretty emotional game at Maryland. So you might have a little bit of a letdown spot there. So I think those are some areas where JMU definitely has an edge.
Yeah, and that's why I'm riding the money line. And then the other one, what's the point spread for this game?
What's your other game?
Memphis over Western Kentucky.
That one I think is a pretty massive one. I think, like 14-ish based on KenPom.
I like that.
You like them minus 14?
I like them minus 14. I think what we'll learn throughout this doing this podcast and also the column I write weekly at drf.com/sports. I'm not afraid to lay points in college basketball.
That's fair.
I think you get more blowouts than you kind of expect. Like Alabama, it blew up in my face for Tuesday games because Alabama didn't cover the 23.5 point spread that I picked, but they covered it earlier in the season. So I'm not afraid to lay those big points. Memphis minus 14, give me all of that. Memphis, Amani Bates, Penny Hardaway, fantastic team. I think they're number 11 in the nation right now, and they've proven it. Thought that St. Louis, who's a good mid-major program, who had really good stats going into that Memphis game, would give them a little bit more trouble. They were plus 11, and Memphis absolutely obliterated them. I think Western Kentucky is a worse team than St. Louis is, and I think they can blow them out by even more.
I actually like this pick a lot. You got a Western Kentucky team that's 1-2. Their one win is a 5-point home win over Alabama State, which is one of the 30 worst teams in the country if you're going off of KenPom. They were favored on a neutral floor against Minnesota. I picked Minnesota in that game as an underdog. Last week, Minnesota won that outright, and they lost to South Carolina by 11. So Western Kentucky has shown nothing to make anyone think that they're playing at a high level right now, and Memphis has been clicking on all cylinders.
Yeah, so give me Memphis, give me the points, give me JMU money line because I expect them to be a dog. And let's ride that parlay to a win. Moving on from anything else you want to hit on college basketball before we move on?
I think that's good for me.
All right, so now the big stuff. We move into college football. It's rivalry weekend. If you listen to the other podcast Bennett and I do, Bennett said he prefers rivalry weekend over all other weekends.
It's not a rivalry weekend yet.
Oh, is it not?
No, it's next weekend. But there are some rivalry games this week, though. Or at least some massive games. But next weekend's the big slate.
All right. Sorry. My apologies. I was a little premature on that.
I still like this week.
This is going to be a great game. We're going to kick it off with number 5, Ohio State, taking on number 7, Michigan State. The spread is 19. That large of a spread. I'll say college basketball, I'm not afraid to lay points. Football, I'm very afraid to lay double-digit points. Just give me your first thoughts. You see this spread. What is your first thought?
Ohio State's really good. Like they're like
That's
early
your first thought.
Yeah, like early in the year they were struggling a little bit. And it took them some time to get going, but now they're absolutely going. Like they were, I think, right around 20.5 point favorites against Purdue last week, and Purdue had been like the giant killers. They had they had taken down Iowa when Iowa was number 2, even though Iowa really, in hindsight, had no business being number 2. You had Michigan State was in the top 2 or 3. They took them down 2. But Ohio State's a different team, and Ohio State blew out Purdue. They covered that 20-point spread pretty easily. So I would kind of lean Ohio State here. I think Michigan State, of those kind of that group of like Ohio State, Michigan, and Michigan State, I think the committee rankings don't make a ton of sense in terms of like Michigan State beat Michigan head-to-head. They should probably be ahead of them. But I do think Michigan's a better team than Michigan State, even though that result says otherwise. I think Ohio State's the best of those 3, though. And I would kind of lean Ohio State to minus 19.
You sound like Lee Corso. That's what Lee Corso was explaining on College Game Day on Saturday, how Michigan's a better team, but the blah, blah, blah. Sounded exactly like him there. That's so many points to me. Michigan State isn't 20 points worse than Ohio State.
That's what I thought with the Purdue game. I didn't think Purdue was necessarily 20 points worse, and Ohio State said, well, all right, and then they beat them by 1 billion. Like Ohio State at the beginning of the year was not playing unbelievable football, but right now they've really kind of found their groove. I think it's at Ohio State, if I'm not mistaken.
It is.
No, it's at yes, it's at Ohio State. So it's at Ohio State. They had early in the year they weren't playing their best football, and since the first 3 weeks they've really come on strong. The slimmest margin of victory, they have a couple 9-point wins in there, but I don't know. I would lean the -19. I just think they're better, and I worry about Michigan State being able to keep up if Ohio State drops 40 plus.
That is a good point. Michigan State's offense runs through Kenneth Walker. And if you all of a sudden are staring down a 20-point deficit in the third quarter, you can't rely on they kind of did against Michigan, and that's how they won the game, but you can't necessarily rely on your running back when you're down and times against you as well. I will say Michigan State's 6-2 against the spread after a win this season. Does that change anything?
Not necessarily. They've won most of their games, so they're just really good against the spread this year. But early in the year, I think they were really undervalued because people, including myself, didn't think they were that good. They kept reeling off wins, and now I feel like they've gotten to a point where it's like people understand kind of what they are. So less concerned about that just because I feel like we've gotten enough games now where it's like, all right, this is what both teams are.
So our DRF game simulators as well both give the edge to Michigan State. They expect we have 2 game simulators that you kind of use different metrics to predict it, but it's not often you see both of them giving an edge to one side. They don't like Michigan State to win, but they do like Michigan State to cover. I think I'm on Michigan State here at +19. And when I say I think, I'm on Michigan State here +19 to cover. I think kind of their style where they're going to run it. Kenneth Walker's really good. I think they can kind of control the clock a little bit more. So do I think they're going to win? Probably not. No, I'm probably not betting them at +850 or whatever they are right now on the money line. But I don't think Ohio State necessarily will be able to rack up 3 touchdowns of a lead.
Yeah, fair enough.
Fair enough.
Let's see what happens. I'll end up taking Ohio State.
All right.
I'll have a go at it again there.
Do you think we're going to talk a little bit playoff talk in a bit. Do you think Ohio State, if they win and then win next weekend as well, are in the college football playoff?
They've got to win the Big Ten. So they got to win that. They got to beat Michigan, and then they have to win the Big Ten title game, and then they would be in, yeah.
Okay. Next up, we got not South Dakota. Wow, I'm in FCS mode.
Big FCS. Just big disrespect to the best punting team in the country.
We got, yeah, you're right. What your punter averages 55 yards a punt. Something ungodly. San Diego State, they're playing UNLV. UNLV is a great 2-8 on the season. San Diego State is number 23, only favored by 10.5 here.
Almost tempted to take UNLV. I bet them a few times this year.
Why?
They play really well with teams. Like for a 2-8 team, like they hang around. I don't know if you have their ATS record handy, but like they've done a nice job hanging in some of these games. I think they've won. Have they won 2 in a row now? Yeah, they won 2 in a row. So they're 2-8, but they're on a 2-game winning streak. San Diego State plays
4 against the spread.
Yeah, see, they're pretty good. So
against the spread, they are.
San Diego State's also a team that I love, but they've done a nice job kind of hanging in games for the most part. Like they were only lost by 8 on the road at Fresno State. UTSA, which is a darling, only lost by 7. San Jose State, they lost by 7. Utah State, they lost by 4. They've won their last 2 games. It's at home. It's a Friday night game. I would be tempted to take that. And also San Diego State, like part of the reason their punter is famous is because they punt the ball a lot of times. Like they play defense and they're happy to beat you like 20-10. So I would consider UNLV here at kind of an interesting spot.
UNLV on average this season is outscored by opponents by 10. So on average, they cover this spread.
And they've had a fairly tough schedule, to be honest with you. Like,
I didn't know we had a UNLV apologist on this podcast.
I love UNLV. I've been taking them to win a game for a while now, so I'm happy they finally got it done. But they've really only had 2 blowout losses. Well, You could probably say 3, but they've hung in there pretty well recently.
Well, so do you think? I just don't. I'm not saying that San Diego State is going to blow the doors off of them, but I can see them winning by 17.
Yeah, the issue with San Diego State is they have to score 17. Their offense is really something else.
Yeah, I mean, they only average 28 points. Here's the thing. San Diego State's offense only averages – this is insane. They only average 28 points per game, and yet they're somehow 9-1, number 23 in the country.
They play great defense.
What was that?
They play great defense.
Yeah, they only allow 17 points per game.
Yeah.
The other thing is they only have 18 first downs a game.
I'm not going to watch this game. I don't think this game will be enjoyable.
Well, it kicks off at 11:30 p.m. I'm
also probably not going to bet this game. I would lean UNLV, but I'm probably just going to avoid it.
I'm glad you're up front. But yeah, I mean, San Diego State 28 points per game, UNLV 22 points per game. Here I am talking myself into UNLV here. Everything in my bone tells me to go San Diego State. UNLV's 3-13 in home games after winning 2 of their last 3 since 1992. San Diego State 7-1 after a game where they forced 1 or less turnovers. So only 1 turnover the last 2 seasons.
I'm throwing that out.
Oh, you want the head-to-head? Here's the head-to-head. Over the last 3 seasons, San Diego State is 2-0 straight up against UNLV. 1-1 against the spread, but both have gone under. So if you want to play, San Diego State has a great defense.
The under's got to be super low.
It's 41, but I like the
under. I kind of like the under there. I think this game has a chance to be really low scoring.
So what we're saying is stay away from the spread. We both like the under here because there might only be 20 points total scored. Hammer the under. I think after what we just discussed, maybe stay away from that spread. But if you're Bennett and you want to get a little crazy, they've covered the spread. They're 6-4 against the spread this season. Maybe you want to sprinkle a little bit on UNLV plus 10.5. Moving on from that game, Oklahoma's coming off of an embarrassing loss against Baylor. Normally when you're coming off an embarrassing loss, you have a better get back, get right game. But they play Iowa State. Who do you got?
Iowa State's a good team. I also think for Oklahoma, maybe they get back, but their playoff hopes were just crushed. So I think they're going to kind of –
they're that good of a team. I think they've been kind of riding a luck wave for a while.
Yeah, they're not that good. And I think for them to get back, I don't know why mentally they would want to. I think it's probably pretty crushing to be thinking that if you win the Big 12 and you would have beaten Baylor, Iowa State, Oklahoma State in 3 consecutive weeks, that would have probably put them in the conversation, pretty squarely in the conversation. So I think Iowa State's a good side here. You can get them as an underdog. They have a lot of talent. And I think for them, the chance to beat a ranked team is maybe more motivating than Oklahoma just trying to salvage its season.
I think the one tough part about this game is that it's in Norman. That's not necessarily an easy place to play. But then again, no. Oklahoma fans might be a little dejected after last week because, for all the same reason that the team might be a little checked out, the fans might be a little checked out. I also like Iowa State here because Matt Campbell's 12-2 against the spread off of a close loss to a conference rival. We define a close loss by 7 points or less. They're also 6-1 after a game of 60 total points or more were scored over the last 2 seasons. Our simulators, which I've been hyping up because it's been backing up our picks, don't agree with Iowa State in this one. But I like Iowa State to win outright at plus 155.
Yeah, I think I'll probably take that.
I think I might ride it, sprinkle in a couple money line parlays, see how I feel. I love parlays so much. Here's something that might smell a little weird. Clemson's favored over Wake Forest. Number 13, Wake Forest.
Yeah, Clemson's been getting a boost kind of all year. That hasn't really changed just because they're Clemson. I mean, I would lean Clemson here, to be honest.
Really?
I'm not sold on Wake at all. They just don't play a lot of defense. Their offense is awesome, but Clemson's really, really good defensively. At the same time, you had a Pitt team that's really good offensively and maybe not the best defensively, and they were able to beat Clemson at Clemson. So I think it was at Clemson. It might have been. But anyway, Pitt was able to do that with the offensive attack.
Pitt.
I'm absolutely not going to bet this game. I don't like betting Clemson games this year.
Oh, I would 100% bet Wake Forest plus 170 here.
Really?
Yes.
Are you going to do it?
I'm going to do it.
I'm avoiding it at all costs.
I might do a little bit of an underdog parlay with these picks that we're hitting right now.
Good luck to you, sir.
2-8 though. Clemson is 2-8 against the spread this season.
What have they covered?
Simulators like Wake Forest to win. One simulator likes them to win 29-28. The other simulator likes them to win 28-25. And Dave Clawson, the head coach of Wake, is 12-3 against the spread after allowing 31 points or more in 2 straight games. And Wake is 6-2 against the spread in the second half of the season over the last 2 years. I know I'm talking money line. I like Wake to win this money line.
I just think the defense is so bad.
See, but now that I say that, 53% of the public as of right now are riding Wake against the spread.
That's not too many.
That's more than half. I don't know if I want to fade the public now. No, I like Wake plus 170. I like them to win. I like Sam Hartman. I like what Wake Forest is doing. And I'm really low on Clemson. It kind of surprised me when I saw they were 7-3. I don't think Clemson's all that great. I think Wake can do it. I think Wake will do it. Next up, Iowa. Iowa versus Illinois. Illinois has been kind of a weird team this season. What are they? 4-6. They started the season off with a huge win that got everyone excited. I think over Nebraska, was it?
Yeah.
Turned out Nebraska wasn't as good as we thought. Everything happened. They then rattled off a lot of losses in a row and have kind of rotated between wins and losses the last couple of weeks. Coming off of a win, so kind of the way they've been playing, a loss is next. Who do you got?
I have no thoughts on the spread or money line. I would take the under, which I think has a chance to, what, is it in the 30s?
38.
Yeah, I would still take that under. That would be my
Iowa's offense is anemic. They only average 25 points per game. Illinois' offense is even worse, 17, but both of which have pretty solid defenses.
I wouldn't recommend watching this game. I think the under is the side. Like, there's been a lot of gross Big Ten games that, like, going into the week, I'm like, that's probably going to be a horrible under. And then it's been a horrible under. So I think this has a chance to just be a really ugly football game.
I think if you're going the under on this game, you have to go Illinois plus 12.5 because I don't think there'll be enough points scored for Iowa.
There was one like that where the total against Wisconsin was like in the 30s. They lost 24-0. So I have no – although Illinois the last 3 weeks has actually been okay. They beat Penn State in a game that went under even though it went into 9 overtimes. And then they were close with Rutgers within a score, and they beat Minnesota on the road 14-6. So their last 2 road games, they've actually been really good on the road. They beat Penn State, they beat Minnesota, they barely lost to Purdue, and then the other outlier there is Virginia blew them out. But their Big Ten road games have been pretty good. So yeah, maybe a little under an Illinois spread could be interesting there.
I think under an Illinois spread. If you look back to October 9th, well, actually, October 2nd was the last time against Charlotte was the last time they scored combined. The total went over 38. Since then, against
unbelievable.
Wisconsin, they lost 24-0. Also, only one of Illinois' games this season have gone over the point total, and only 3 for Iowa has gone over the point total. I think you hammer the under and
They're
you go
under machines.
12.5. Both of these teams are under machines. They have anemic offenses. Illinois plus 12.5 and the under 38. That's the way to ride with that game. You added this one in. Utah's going to smoke Oregon?
Utah's favored, is that right?
They are. Utah's -3 at Utah, number 24.
But
you think they're going to smoke them?
Of all the bets I'm taking this week that I'll put the most unit count on, it's probably going to be Utah -3.
Really?
Oregon's barely been beating these teams, even though a lot of them aren't good. Utah has played very inspired and good football recently. I think the public is going to see number 3 Oregon against maybe a ranked Utah team as an underdog. And they're like,
right now, yeah.
They're gonna be like, oh my god. So I love this one. I'm smashing Utah. I've had this circled on the calendar for weeks. That's when they're gonna lose a game. So I'm taking Utah with a lot of money, I think, for me at least.
You kind of did predict it. 84% of the public is with Oregon against the spread.
I'm putting multiple units on this game.
You're really, really into it. Oregon, hasn't really been that great this season. They've won against the spread the last 2 weeks, but they just really haven't been fantastic all year.
I think at least one of those was kind of up in the air. Like Washington played a horrible game.
26-16. You should beat Washington by a lot more than that, especially the way Washington's been playing. And if you're one of the best teams in the country, if Alabama goes in there and plays Washington, even if it's at Seattle, I think Alabama comes out of there with a 35-point win.
I don't think Oregon is making the playoff, so they have to lose to not make the playoff based on where they are now. So I think this is kind of when it makes sense for them to lose. It also helps out my Cincinnati future, which I'm feeling incredible about. So
we'll talk a little bit about that, but I think the Ohio State game's still propping up Oregon a lot.
Big time.
Big time. The public, the eyes of really everyone. I like Utah -3 too. I love what you just said. The fact that you're so into it. The last time you were this into a bet was UNC favored against Wake.
And that one got incredibly lucky, but it did hit. It did, in fact, hit. So that was a big one. And then I had a good NFL slate with some confident ones, too, last weekend. So college basketball, I've been gold.
We both started hot. We got a little chilly there. We're hoping that by talking out these picks on the podcast, we'll be able to get a little bit warmer and hear back from all the listeners in terms of what worked, what didn't, everything like that. Moving into some college football playoff talk, we'll hit this really quick. I mean, do you think there's any value on anyone other than Georgia? Georgia's -120. I
wouldn't take someone to win the playoff with like minus odds. I don't love any of this. I think I might wait until like the games happen and then you take them. But you had Alabama, I think +350 and Ohio State +400. Ohio State +400 would be kind of interesting to me. I think they are better than the teams that they'll play. The issue with Ohio State +400 is they've still got Michigan State, Michigan, and like maybe a Wisconsin or something in the Big Ten title game. 3 reasonably good teams. So like if they stumble at all, but they really don't look like they are stumbling. So they're certainly a team I would look at. I think if you're taking anyone, I would probably take Bama or Ohio State. I wouldn't want to take Georgia -120.
It's kind of hilarious, the jump. If you go Bama +350, Ohio State +400, then the next best is Oregon at +2,000.
Yeah, it's just Oregon's not good.
And then you have Michigan +3,000 because a lot has to happen for them to.
Yeah, they're going to have to beat Ohio State.
Yeah. I think Bama is probably your best value play here. +350, they'll probably have to play Georgia twice, and I like Nick Saban in a second game. They also have to make it. You're banking it on the fact that Alabama will probably lose the SEC championship game to Georgia, right? And then
there's a chance that they will still get in. Yes, a 2-loss SEC team, but it gets a lot trickier if they do lose that SEC title game. There's a chance they would get left out.
I think they would get in over a Cincinnati team, but
I think Cincinnati would definitely be in that scenario.
You're just talking from your futures.
No, I actually think they would definitely. I think Cincinnati, if Oregon loses, has an incredible path, right? Because the ACC is not getting in. Then the Pac-12 wouldn't get in. So you're going to have SEC probably gets 2. The Big Ten gets 1. And am I missing? Big 12's not getting in because Oklahoma lost. So I think you would have just the 2 SECs, Big Ten, and then you have the 4th for Cincinnati to get bludgeoned by Georgia potentially.
Yeah. All right. You gave it. You broke it down. I like it. Well, that's kind of it for the DRF College Sports Podcast. Kind of the wrap up here. Do you have any games that you're really circled that we didn't talk about? Anything else? What would you call your best bet of this podcast? Hit me with the wrap up.
I think for me, it's still the Utah football over Oregon, -3 money line, whatever you want to take. I think both those are really good plays. That'll probably be my biggest play. Basketball wise, I love what you've dug up with Wyoming over Washington. I think that's a Thursday night game really late. I love personally East Coast. I love to bet a late night game. I place my bet. I go to sleep. I wake up. My little app has green in the morning, Jack. That's what I want. That's what I'm gonna have happen with that Wyoming game. So I feel good about that one. I think tomorrow when people are listening to this, the Thursday, I guess today for them, Thursday, right? There are a lot of really good basketball games, so I imagine I'll have a few. a few 1-unit plays there, but I might put a couple of units on Wyoming.
Yeah, I love the Wyoming pick. Fantastic value there. What you did, I did that with BYU last night. Right before I went to bed, I put 2 units on BYU, and then I saw that UNC didn't cover, and that solidified my 2-4 night. So I went to sleep, and then I woke up to BYU winning in dominating fashion against Oregon.
They're good.
They're really good. Them and Utah State, I think, are going to shock some people, because I don't think a lot of East Coast people are staying up to watch BYU and Utah State play. Both of them are going to shock some people come March. The other bet I really like, I wasn't in love with a lot of those football bets. I love Tennessee over Villanova. Love Tennessee over Villanova.
I like that one too, and I don't know if we actually mentioned this, but I feel like just the fact that Villanova played like a nationally televised game already and Tennessee hasn't, and they're higher in the polls, like I think that makes me think that a lot of people are going to like Villanova. You can get Tennessee as a dog, maybe.
Yeah.
Woo! I like that.
Tennessee's the better overall team. Villanova might be the better offense, but Tennessee's the better overall team. With all of that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning in to the very first episode of the DRF College Sports Podcast. We're going to be doing this, dropping every Thursday morning from here until infinity. We record Wednesday nights, so if you ever want to get a game you want our opinion on, anything like that, hit us up at DRF_sports, or where can they find you, Bennett?
You can find me on Twitter at Bennett Conlin.
How do you spell that? 2 N's, 3 N's, 4 N's?
Yeah, I got a lot of double letters. So it's BENNETT and then CONLIN. You can find me there. I think my Twitter bio has a bunch of the other links and handles in there too for where I work with Sports Handle, Better Collective, and we've also got our JMU pod in there if you want to really get into the weeds of some of those JMU bets.
Yeah, if you want to understand the CAA and how to bet the CAA and find a lot of value in those games, because the books are not watching a Tuesday night game between Elon and Drexel, I can guarantee it, and you can find some value there. For Bennett Conlin, my name's Jack Fitzpatrick. You guys can find all of my tweets and stuff at FITZ all the way, Fitz all the way. Let's win some money. I think we just went perfect on this podcast. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty good.
I think it's interesting because we had, competing picks. So I imagine those will push. Those are all going to be pushes.
Yeah, those are all going to be pushes. Even though for some of them, I picked the money line and you picked the money line. So.
Might just end in a tie. There might be some sort of like weather-related incident. The game can't be played.
Yeah, somehow, some way. Let us know how you guys did. Thank you guys for tuning in. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Deuces.